You know, when they talk about heaven on earth for the next 1,000 years, that's going to happen in the next couple of years. That is what this is all leading to, is a final understanding and a final commitment of the people that live on this, the souls that come on this planet, that are either going to respect the earth and live in balance with it, or they will no longer, excuse me, be allowed to live on the planet. My name is David Cobb. Had been a film and television producer for over 20 years and had also been a professional athlete. I had this incredible near death experience, and it lasted for 13 days. It first started New Year's Eve, right at about 1 o'clock in the morning the next day, where I woke up, and at the very foot of my bed was this incredible ancient spirit, just bright, bright light, and he had to be at least 10 feet tall. Now, I'd had a little bit of experience with people on the other side. My grandfather had come to me when I was a young boy, and when I was 5, when he had passed and told me some things. And so I had some communication with people that had passed before. So I wasn't completely surprised. I actually thought, he's pretty tall. Thank God I got high ceilings. I mean, I really was not taken back by what was happening with this great spirit. But I sort of said, all right, what do you want? And he said, he did this. He said, I will return in a few days and I will reveal everything. I thought, okay, right. So I went back to sleep, and about 3 or 4 hours later, I woke up and I was violently ill, and I started to throw up and everything. And for the next 2 weeks, I was so sick, I just couldn't believe it. And just as I started to get better, that very night, a couple weeks later, 1 o'clock in the morning, the same time, sure enough, I wake up and here is this huge spirit standing at my bed again. And I was like, no, 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 no. Last time you came, you made me really sick. I don't want anything to do with you. And he just stared at me, and he reached out his hand. And I thought, wow, there's just no way I'm going to get away from this. And so I went and I touched his hand. And the minute I touched his hand, we started flying. And we flew back to my ranch. And we came right on this specific spot. It's the only reason why I ever bought this property, is because I found that there was a vortex. There was an energy field on this property, which is why I had purchased this land. And so we landed, and for the next 13 nights, every night he would come to me at 1 o'clock in the morning. He would put his hand out. I would touch it. We would fly to the ranch. And every night he would teach me certain things. Now, after the second night of this happening, because he would give me sort of a download, he would teach me these certain ideas, and I would have to wake up, go downstairs, write down exactly what he said, and it was exhausting. And by the third night, when he showed up, he came to me and he said, look, this isn't really working. It's taking a toll on your body. So I'm going to give you this egg, this magic egg, and in it was this crack. You could just see this incredible light kicking through it. And when he would hand it to me and I would touch it, it would open up like a petal, and the words would just come into me. So each night for the next 7 or 8 nights, he would give me lessons and teachings of ancient wisdom and healing. And then he would hand me the egg, and I would wake up, I would see the egg in my head, and I would just start to print out these words. And in those 13 nights, he gave me 13 chapters of a book that he wanted me to publish. And it is a channeling of ancient wisdom and understandings coming from these ancient Native Americans. Now, it's not any philosophy, it's not a religion, it's not anything silly like that. It's actually what everyone used to understand. They used to understand that we had past lives. They used to understand that Mother Earth was a living, breathing thing that we had to connect to and respect, right? We used to understand that we could heal each other by using energy. We used to understand we could communicate without words. All of these simple things are in that book. The big event that had happened to me in that near-death experience was that on the 7th night, when I reached my hand out and we flew back to the ranch, I arrived and there were 12 other ancient native spirits around a huge campfire on my ranch. And I said, what's going on? And he said, well, tonight is your night of rites. And I said, rites for what? And he said, well, we're going to make you into what you're supposed to be. I'm like, and what is that? And they don't, spirits don't really talk a lot. They just kind of, they look at you a lot like, don't you get it? It's not a lot of expression. And I said, well, okay, you have to be, what are you making me into? And they said, there are no words for it, but think of it as a shaman's shaman, which is basically a teacher of teachers. We want you to be able to help other people help the rest of the planet. And I said, well, okay. I guess I understand it. They said, and we're going to give you a section of Mother Earth that we want you to look after and make medicine for every living thing in that section of Mother Earth. Plants, animals, people, everything. And I said, well, I don't know how to make medicine. They said, we'll teach you. And I said, well, I don't know how to grow plants. And they said, we will teach you. And I thought, well, I don't know about this. So a whole lot of teaching going on. So as we stood there, he told me a few more things. He gave me a name that they were making me. He said, look, we're going to name you Konawak. And I said, what? And he said, Konawak. If you look it up, what I got out of it, they told me the word meant that it was an ancient teacher and scribe of ancient wisdom. So their definition for me was to do exactly what? Channel books, get the information out, and help teach other people what we're trying to remember we used to be and how we're supposed to be living on this planet. Because they saw the Earth changing very quickly in the next few years. We're experiencing a tremendous amount of division right now. We're experiencing a tremendous amount of pain and suffering, and all the things happening to people are really overwhelming us. And on top of it, you can see Mother Earth is spinning out of control at the same time, right? There's a number of factors that create that, and I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but basically what the ancients taught me, and even what our own astrophysicists have been learning, is that we in our galaxy travel around the entire universe in a circle. We just go around and around. And depending upon where we are in that universe, we are influenced by other planets and other galaxies. Now, they suddenly realize that they think that there are 2 billion other galaxies out there. They believe there are 8 billion other planets. Some think there's 8 trillion other planets. I mean, that is unfathomable. But what it does is it makes us recognize that, yes, we are being affected by all of these other planets and all of these other energies. And that happens on a cyclical nature. So we happen to be in time to be in a place in the universe where all of these other planetary energies are hitting us, and it's affecting the health of the Earth. Now, granted, we have not taken care of Mother Earth. We have not respected her water, her food, all of the resources. We're drilling and scraping, and I mean, I'm sorry. If your physical body was the Earth, how would you feel right now? All these people drilling into you, taking your water out, taking your lifeblood out of you, and disrespecting you, polluting your waters. I'm sorry. So Mother Earth right now, not only is she feeling the energies from the other planets, but she's going through her own sickness caused by our disrespect. So she is cleansing herself. When you get sick and you get a cold or you get a flu, what's the first thing that happens? Your body heats up. You try to sweat it out. You try to create mucus to control the infection. You try to sleep. You try to rest. You go through these series of different changes to try to force the illness out of you. That's what's happening to the Earth right now. All of these storms, all of these anomalies, these once in 1,000, floods, once in 10,000 storms. Suddenly there's 100 hurricanes at once, right? All of that is Mother Earth just trying to cleanse herself. It's the same thing that happens when you have the flu. You get all this mucus and it has to come out. It's the same thing. Mother Earth is creating all of these, what we think is our anomalies, but severe weather patterns to try to cleanse herself. So we can't take it as our own condemnation. Yes, we have polluted the planet, but the planet is going through its own sort of changes on its own, right? So we have to pay attention to that. But the other side of this, which is, I don't want to say strange, but it's a little bit out there, is that when we go through other parts of the universe and are affected by other planets, it actually changes our consciousness. It raises and lowers our consciousness. And that's why for the last couple of thousand years, we've been very, very rudimentary, meaning the Middle Ages, the Dark Ages, we had a horse and buggy. For thousands of years, we couldn't do anything but scrape stones to create fire. And now in the last 100 years, we have spaceships, we have Motorola phones. Everything is becoming incredibly high tech in less than 100 years, where the previous thousands of years we had nothing. How did that happen? Well, what the masters had told me is that the Atlanteans, which are about 10,000 years ago that used to live here, they had actually had tremendous technology and advancements. And they themselves were disrespectful to the earth, and they actually destroyed the earth to the point where they knocked themselves off the planet. And the universal structure within karma said, you know what? You disrespected the planet so much, you cannot live on that planet for 10,000 years. And that ended in 1900. So 100 years ago, a tremendous amount of Atlantean souls started to reincarnate on the planet for the first time in thousands of years. And guess what they brought with them? The remembrance of technology. The remembrance of all the things that they used to actually destroy the planet before. Because they had understood that if you control the water and the food and the money, you control the planet. And so what started in 1900? The feds, a universal money system, a universal government that gave you your water, that controlled all the things that you did, that controlled all of the things that happened, right? All of this is leading up to, it's not an Armageddon. It's not really people are going to fight each other, even though, for instance, we have this tremendous fight going on in the Middle East right now. I mean, the bloodshed, the horror. How can you not be overwhelmed by, right, what's happening? But part of that is this opposing forces. As I had said earlier, people are becoming either more spiritually advanced or they're becoming more greedy and individualistic. The divide is a chasm where we used to have people that were just sort of neutral, right? We just live a normal life. No. You are either moving towards being incredibly in tune with the planet and each other, or incredibly selfish and ignoring of everything that's going on. And what that is doing is it's bringing us to a cataclysm, sort of a precipice of that final change. You know, when they talk about heaven on earth for the next 1,000 years, that's going to happen in the next couple of years. That is what this is all leading to, is a final understanding and a final commitment of the people that live on this, the souls that come on this planet, that are either going to respect the earth and live in balance with it, or they will no longer, be allowed to live on the planet. Okay, these are the changes. The first thing that they taught me were actually the volcanoes. They said that when the volcanoes start to erupt, and in an unusual manner, ones that have been asleep for thousands of years, that is the first sign that the big change is coming. And that started a couple of years ago. We started to see volcanoes wake up and start to be more active. But all of the channelers that I have known, all of the information that the masters have given me, they still lead to a major Earth event that changes humanity in an instant. And that has always led back to the California coast. That has always led back to an Earth event happening that actually affects California to the point where the entire world and the consciousness of our planet changes. Now, interestingly enough, our own scientists from NASA have discovered that there is an asteroid that is supposed to, in line right now, to hit our planet in 2036, 12 years from now. And it is going to hit 50 miles off the coast of California. and it's going to create a tsunami because it hits the water. 40 times the water is going to rise and fall and completely wipe out the West Coast. Now, the West Coast is under sea level, more than 70% of it. So if it has a flood, it could stay underwater for years. It doesn't fall off into the ocean, it just gets flooded. But what that does to us is it changes the entire planet. People start to migrate, people start to move. So the thing is that they realize that this asteroid is actually going to come close to the Earth in 2029, just 5 years from now. And if it keeps the pattern, which this time it misses in 2029, it then comes back around in 2036 and actually impacts us. So in just 4 years, 2028, we will see this asteroid coming close enough to us to start to tell us, look, this is a major thing that is going to change everything forever. People need to start realizing it and start adjusting. So as much as the wars and all of the carnage in our own government collapsing, all the things that we're doing, and just the dysfunction of it all, that still isn't enough to wake us up. I hate to tell you. That's what the masters have told me. That we as a species are not able to take these examples and look at it and go, you know, let's change. Let's change. And so when the Earth in the next couple of years has even more severe weather and forces us to change and start to respect it, we are going to have to start becoming more self-sufficient to continue to move forward. The major cities will start to change and people will start to move away from them. And I don't want to say they're going to collapse, but they just won't be sustainable at a certain point. And with that, when we go back to being self-sustainable and we start to grow all of our food and we start to be connected to all of the resources, we change who we are as souls and we go back and connect to why we've come to this planet. You're either going to accept it and become part of the change, or you're going to get pushed out. And I don't want to say that's the explanation for why we're seeing all of this horrific death and all of the things going on, the wars and the greed and the stealing and the lying, but it is. Because this planet is supposed to be a learning tool. When we as a soul, you're just a ball of energy. That's all you are. And you agree to rent, the ancients called it rental bodies. You just rent a body so that you can learn the lessons on this planet. This planet is an incredible school for learning lessons to advance the soul. And that's why it can't be destroyed. More than that, this planet is the most unique planet in the entire universe. It is the only one with all of these species, with all of these plants, with all of these animals. They say that there are beings from outer dimensions that come to simply watch the uniqueness of this planet and the life that is on it. This planet is so important that's why we're headed to this good against evil. You can't go out there and change the world. You're not going to run for government. You're not going to become president. You're not going to create this free water source. All you can do is change your own life. If you change your own thinking, if you change how you respect Mother Earth, if you realize your resources, you don't use 500 gallons a day, you don't throw your food away, you don't waste. If we start to do that individually, then as a collective, we do start to change the world. So I really appreciate being on the show. It's great to be able to connect with your audience. Appreciate everyone that tunes in. And just remember that Mother Earth has everything that you have ever wanted if you simply just take a moment to recognize her and listen.